The Freedom Party secures the first election victory for a far-right party in Austria since World War II.
An Israeli airstrike hit a multi-story building in central Beirut, killing at least one person.
The Freedom Party has secured the first parliamentary election victory for a far-right party in post-World War II Austria. A projection for ORF public television showed the party finishing first with 29.2%. That win pushed Chancellor Karl Nehammer's Austrian People's Party into second place with 26.5%. Freedom Party leader Herbert Kickl said it was a piece of history that we have written together today.
Wir haben das verinnerlicht, wir fühlen uns bestärkt und wir werden von diesem Weg auch nicht abgehen. Diese 29% sind für uns eine Bestärkung. Diesen Weg, den wir bisher gemeinsam eingeschlagen haben, mit noch größerer Intensität.
But to become Austria's new leader, Kickl needs a coalition partner to command a parliamentary majority, and that might be tricky. He said he's open to negotiate with other parties, but so far his rivals, including Nehammer and Social Democrats leader Andreas Babler, have said they won't work with the far right. Speaking in Vienna, outgoing Chancellor Karl Nehammer said it was bitter that his party lost, but his position towards Kickl hadn't changed.
Mit Herbert Kickl, der an Verschwörungstheorien glaubt, die WHO als nächste Weltregierung bezichtigt und das Treffen in Davos als Vorbereitungstreffen für die Weltherrschaft, kann man so vernünftig und verantwortungsvoll keinen Staat machen.
The Freedom Party's win sparked protests outside the Parliament building in Vienna, with demonstrators holding placards with slogans including "Kickl is a Nazi." The far right has benefited from frustration over high inflation, the war in Ukraine and the COVID-19 pandemic, and has also built on worries about migration. The final official results will be published later in the week after a small number of remaining postal ballots have been counted. The Israeli military says its aircraft have struck Houthi targets in Yemen in response to a recent attack on Israel. The IDF says it targeted power plants and seaport facilities in the city of Hodeidah. Houthi-run media say at least 4 people were killed and 33 others wounded in the strikes. Speaking to military personnel in Tel Aviv, Israel's defense minister Yoav Gallant said the strikes were impressive.
אין לנו עניין להרחיב את המלחמה, אין לנו עניין לחפש חזיתות נוספות, אבל אם מישהו יתקוף את ישראל, כמו שעשו החות'ים לאחרונה בטילים ולאורך כל המלחמה בתק"ק ובתל"שים ובכטב"מים, כל אחד שיבצע פעולה כזאת, אנחנו נבוא איתו חשבון ואנחנו יודעים לעשות את זה.
Meanwhile, in Lebanon, at least 24 people were killed in Israeli airstrikes that hit 2 adjacent buildings near the southern city of Sidon. The Lebanese health ministry says at least 29 people were injured. Israel and Hezbollah have exchanged almost daily fire since the war in Gaza started in October, displacing tens of thousands of people on both sides of the border. And speaking to reporters on his flight back to Italy from Belgium, Pope Francis suggested that Israel's attacks in Gaza and Lebanon have been immoral.
La difesa sempre deve essere proporzionata all'attacco. Quando c'è qualcosa sproporzionato si fa vedere una tendenza dominatrice che va oltre la moralità.
Strikes deeper into Lebanon have intensified in the last week, particularly in the wake of the killing on Friday of Hezbollah's chief Hassan Nasrallah in a southern suburb of the capital, Beirut.
An Israeli airstrike hit central Beirut early on Monday. The airstrike targeted a multi-story apartment in a residential area lined with shops. There are conflicting accounts of the death toll, with a Lebanese civil defense official stating 1 person died and 16 were wounded. A Palestinian leftist faction in Lebanon said 3 of its members were killed in the attack. Israeli officials have not commented on the matter.
Hundreds of protesters have taken to the streets of Paris to call for an end to Israeli airstrikes in Lebanon. The rally comes as Israeli strikes across the country killed dozens of people on Sunday.
On veut juste un seul objectif, c'est montrer l'unité du peuple libanais. Une image qui montre tous les Libanais qui viennent de partout du Liban, de différents courants politiques, pour soutenir le Liban, les réfugiés, les victimes, soutenir notre pays et défendre notre pays.
Israel and Hezbollah have exchanged almost daily fire since the war in Gaza started in October, displacing tens of thousands of people on both sides of the border. Israel has ramped up its aerial assault on Lebanon, with more than 700 people killed in the last week alone. On Saturday, Israel moved troops close to its northern border, raising fears of an imminent ground offensive into the country. France has been a key supporter of Israel, defending its right to self-defense for years. An arms export report presented to Parliament by the Defence Ministry in 2023 showed that France had issued 767 export licenses to Israel since 2015. France sells an average of 20 million euros worth of military equipment to Israel each year. In April, 11 NGOs in Paris, including Amnesty International, filed a court case to stop France's arms sales to Israel, arguing that civilians in Gaza were being targeted. The court rejected that request in May.
This has become a daily ritual for Shahed Naji, watching the news from his native Lebanon as it faces continued strikes from Israel. Shahed has been living in Berlin for nearly 10 years now, but with family and friends back in Lebanon, the crisis hits close.
Kind of panicking, waking up in the middle of the night to check the news. This is the first time that real bombing starts happening north of Beirut. And my family come from the north, so I was just on a call with them and they said they're hearing fighter jets very low.
Shahed's nephew fled from Beirut to the north for safety. He was already looking to go to school in Germany. Now the motivation to leave is stronger.
The range of the attack includes so many possibility of you being next if you are just around the corner. So you have to leave. You have to give up everything.
After the October 7th attacks in Israel, the German government allowed Israeli visitors to stay temporarily without applying for a residence permit or an extension. Euronews asked if such a program would be prepared for Lebanese citizens. The Interior Ministry said that such regulations do not exist for Lebanese people. More than 47,000 Lebanese nationals live in Germany, but others might have a tougher time coming to the country. Immigration and refugees have been dominating headlines. The far-right AfD received the highest vote share in a state election this month, the first time it achieved such a result. Afterwards, the government tightened border controls as it toughened its position on migration. The Interior Ministry says statistics are not yet available for this month on how many Lebanese nationals have applied for asylum. But Shahed says the political atmosphere gives him little hope his family can join him in safety.
I would definitely try to get them to Germany if it's possible. But again, with the current policies and what's happening within Germany and the last elections results, I don't think this is possible unless something drastic changed and Germany or the EU decided to open asylum for people escaping from the war in Lebanon.
The Pope wrapped up his trip to once-strong bastions of Catholicism in the heart of Europe, Belgium and Luxembourg. During a mass in Brussels, he urged all members of the Church never to cover up abuse, responding to outrage over the scandal that devastated the Church's credibility. He expressed concern for intensifying conflict in the Middle East and appealed for an immediate ceasefire.
Aujourd'hui, qu'il annonce de l'espérance pour l'Église catholique en Belgique. Nous attendons vraiment qu'il nous donne une parole pour nous encourager à rester attachés à la foi. Parce que c'est très difficile.
Are you worried that the Church has not done enough for victims of child abuse? Yes, the church has not done enough, certainly here in Belgium and in other countries too, and that's a scandal. That's absolutely true, but that doesn't take away my belief.
Je suis contente, très contente qu'aujourd'hui. Pourquoi? Parce que c'est une chose que je voudrais très longtemps.
Francis said from Belgium, which he described as a destination for many migrants, he was renewing his appeal to Europe and the rest of the world to consider migration an opportunity to grow together in fraternity. The presidents of Germany and Italy attended the 80th anniversary of the largest massacre of civilians by Nazi soldiers in Western Europe during World War II. Between the 29th of September and the 5th of October 1944, Waffen-SS troops killed at least 770 Italian civilians, including 271 children, women and elderly people in the village of Marzabotto. During the massacre, Nazi troops, aided by Italian fascist collaborators, killed hundreds of Marzabotto locals in reprisal for their support given to partisan freedom fighters. They also killed numerous residents of adjacent settlements. Italian President Sergio Mattarella and German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier went together to the site of the massacre for a commemoration ceremony. The president of the Italian Bishops' Conference held a memorial mass in the Marzabotto church, whose crypt holds the bodies of the civilians killed 80 years ago.